All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are talking about something that is, quite literally, the hidden foundation of our digital lives: information security. We're going to break down what it is, who the key players are, and really dig into the high-stakes game they're all playing every single day. I mean, think about it for a second. We live in a world that is completely built on data. Every click, every purchase, every photo you save, it's all information. And that information has real value. And, anything with value needs protection. So the big question is, what does it actually take to keep it all safe? So, first things first. Before we can understand the fight, we have to define the battlefield. We need to get crystal clear on what information security actually means, because it's a term that gets thrown around a lot. Okay, this is a really important distinction, and it trips a lot of people up. We all hear the word cybersecurity constantly, and yeah, it's a huge deal. It's all about protecting our digital stuff, our laptops, our networks, our data in the cloud. But information security, or InfoSec, as you'll hear it called, is actually the bigger picture. It's about protecting valuable information, period. It doesn't matter if it's an email on a server or a printed out document in a locked file cabinet. InfoSec covers both. Now, I know this definition looks a little dense, but trust me, every word in here matters. See, security isn't just about the products you buy, like a fancy firewall. It's just as much about the people who use the systems and the procedures, the rules they follow. It's this combination of things that works to protect information. And that protection really comes down to three fundamental goals. In the industry, this is known as the CIA triad, and it is the absolute bedrock of everything we're about to talk about. Every single security tool or policy is trying to achieve at least one of these three things. First up, C, for confidentiality. This is the one we all kind of get intuitively. It's about secrecy, right? Keeping private things private. When you type your credit card number into a website, you have a reasonable expectation that only you and the store's payment system can see it. That's confidentiality. Simple as that. Next up, I, for integrity. This is all about trust. It means making sure that the information is accurate and hasn't been messed with. So, let's say you're transferring $100 to a friend. Integrity is what guarantees that an attacker can't intercept that transfer and change it to $1,000 or send it to their own account instead. It ensures the data stays correct. And finally, A, for availability. This one is huge, because what good is perfectly secure, confidential data if you can't get to it when you need it? Think about a hospital. Doctors need immediate access to patient records in an emergency. If a ransomware attack locks up those files, well, availability is gone, and the consequences could be devastating. So security is also about making sure the right people have access at the right time. Okay, so now we know what we're trying to protect: the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of our information. But who are we protecting it from? Well, it's time to meet the other side, the folks who are trying to break in. This is so important. We have this image in our heads, thanks to movies and TV, of the lone hacker in a dark room wearing a hoodie, right? But that stereotype is just completely wrong. The reality of who's behind modern cyber attacks is so much more sophisticated, organized, and honestly, way more professional than most of us imagine. And this right here shows you exactly why that old stereotype is so busted. Just look at this screen. That's not a bunch of complicated code. It's a menu. You just point and click. The tools to launch sophisticated attacks have been packaged up so neatly that you don't even need to be a technical genius to use them anymore. This has lowered the barrier to entry so much that almost anyone can give it a shot. But yeah, those low-skill attackers, they're really just the tip of the iceberg. The threat landscape gets a whole lot more serious from here on out. And here's what that landscape looks like. You've got organized crime syndicates who treat ransomware like a 9-to-5 business, all for the money. You have insider threats, angry employees looking for revenge. You've got hacktivists who are driven by some political or social cause. And then, at the very top of the pyramid, you have nation-state actors, who are basically cyber spies and soldiers. Each of these groups has different motivations, different resources, and totally different playbooks. So we've covered the who and the why. Now let's get into the how. How do these actors actually pull off an attack? Well, they do it by finding and exploiting something called an attack surface. The easiest way to think about an attack surface is it's all the possible entry points into a system. Think of it like a house. Your attack surface is every door, every window, the chimney, maybe even a crack in the foundation. The more complex your house or your computer system is, the bigger that attack surface becomes. and the more chances an attacker has to find a way in. And those entry points usually fall into 3 big buckets. First, you got software vulnerabilities, bugs or flaws in the code of your apps. Then there's hardware, like someone plugging in a sketchy USB drive they found. And of course, there are networks. We've all been tempted to use that free, unsecured Wi-Fi at the coffee shop, right? Well, that's a classic network attack surface. Attackers are just constantly scanning these areas, looking for one little weak spot. Okay, I know hearing about all these threats and vulnerabilities can feel a bit overwhelming. But here's the good news. Defending against them isn't just random guesswork. There's a real professional discipline behind it, built on what you could call the rules of engagement. And this number says it all, 84%. That means the overwhelming majority of organizations aren't just winging it, they are using established security frameworks, which are basically expert-designed blueprints to build a planned, structured, and comprehensive defense. And these frameworks get incredibly detailed. This one here, from NIST, is a great example. It starts with 5 big-picture ideas, these functions, like identify your assets and protect them. Then each of those gets broken down into more specific categories, and then into even more granular subcategories. What's so powerful about this is that it forces you to think about security from top to bottom, moving away from just reacting and plugging holes to actually building a strong, layered defense from the ground up. Which really brings us to the most important thing to remember about all of this. There is no finish line. You don't just win at information security. It's a constant back and forth. The defenders build a 10-foot wall, and the attackers start working on an 11-foot ladder. It is a never-ending cycle of innovation on both sides. So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. In this endless game of cat and mouse, what's protecting your information? And what role do you play in that defense? Something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me.